Hello class, and welcome to section 7.5, which is about factoring x squared plus bx plus c. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to factor trinomials where the leading coefficient is 1. We're looking at these type of trinomials specifically because they have a special name, and that is quadratic. So a quadratic is an expression with a variable that has a degree 2, so that means your highest exponent is 2, and it's written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a can't equal 0. In today's lesson, we're focusing on what happens when that a coefficient is equal to 1. So it's equal to 1, but we know that since it's equal to 1, we don't have to write it. So that's what we're focusing on today. Quick review. This will be super helpful when we get to the answers for these problems. But you'll remember from section 7.2, when you're multiplying binomials, we're going to follow that FOIL method. So the first, x squared, and then the outside, x times 5, giving us 5x, and then the inside, 7 times x, giving us 7x, and then the last, 7 times 5, giving us 35, which reduces down to x squared plus 12x plus 35. So in 7.2, we started with the binomials and we ended up with the trinomial. Now what we're doing today is we're going to be starting with this trinomial and working our way backwards to the two binomial pairs. So for example, we have x squared plus 6x plus 8. When you look at this, your key is going to be to start with this back factor. So our back factor is 8. So I need to know everything that multiplies to 8. So the pairs that multiply to 8 are 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. Those are the only two things that we can use that are whole numbers that are going to multiply to 8. Once you have the multiplication of the back number, your job is to then look at these factor pairs and decide which of them can combine to make this middle number. So I can use 1 and 8 or I can use 2 and 4. In order to get to an answer of 6, I need to add 2 and add 4. Then it becomes very simple. Your x squared is going to break into x, and then the 8 breaks into 2 and 4. The reason this works, if I FOILed this back out, first would be x and x. That gives me x squared. Then I would have 4x and 2x. And if I have 4x plus 2x, that's going to give me 6x. And then I have 2 times 4, which gives me that back number of 8. It doesn't matter if you write it as x plus 2 first or x plus 4 first, as long as you have both pairs. Go ahead and try this one on your own. This time our factor pairs are 1 and 21, 3 and 7. I need to add up to a negative 22, so that's going to be a negative 1 and a negative 21. So we've got m minus 21, m minus 1, or if you flip-flopped it and wrote m minus 1, m minus 21 in that order, that is totally fine as well. Another example, we've got x squared minus 7x minus 18. Again, we're going to look at that back pair, so our back number, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Those are all the things that multiply to 18. Now I need to get to 7. So what I need to do is I need to look and see what adds or subtracts up to 7, negative 7. In this case, it's going to be a negative 9 and a positive 2. So my expression is going to be x plus 2, x minus 9, or if you flip-flop it, you could have x minus 9, x plus 2. Again, you can double check x times x squared, x times negative 9, negative 9x, x times 2x, negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7, and then 2 times negative 9 gives us the negative 18. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Things that multiply up to 48 are listed over here. The ones that we can add or subtract to 13 is negative 3 plus 16. Again, you can write it in either order, and you could flip-flop that to plus 16 first and minus 3 second. Last scenario I'm going to talk about is what happens if there is more than one variable. The process still remains the same. You're still going to come to the back, and you're going to look at the factors of 90. So we got 1 and 90, 2 and 45, 3 and 30, 4 doesn't work, 5 and 18, and then 6 and 15, and then we've got 9 and 10. We're trying to get to a negative 19, so my factor pair that's going to work here is going to be a minus 9 and a minus 10. Now, because we have double variables, that means that x is going to split up into x and x. The y in the back is split as y, and then you have to put in your numbers. So minus 9 and minus 10. Again, double check, x times x, x squared. X times negative 10y is negative 10xy. Negative 9y times x is negative 9xy. Negative 10, negative 9 gives us our negative 19xy. Negative and a negative make a positive 90. Y and y make a y squared. Again, it is possible to write them in either order. So whichever one you had as your first factor, that is totally fine. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Again, listing your factors, figuring out which pair is going to add up to 16, and listing them in either order, making sure that you include that second variable, in this case being y. Last thing, quick summary here, which if you haven't caught this yet, this could be some helpful information to write down. If you have a positive c value, so if this last number here is positive, that means both factors have to have the same sign. So you're either going to have two positives if that middle value is positive, or two negatives if that middle value is negative. If you have a negative c, so if this last number is negative, you're going to have one positive and one negative. If the middle is negative, that means the bigger value is going to be negative. If the middle is positive, that means the bigger value is going to be positive. So what do I mean by that? In this case, we had a negative c and a positive middle. So between 19 and 3, one of them had to be a positive, one of them had to be a negative. Since the middle is a positive, we want the bigger number to be the positive 19, and the smaller number to be the negative 3. So those are a couple things that you can use to help you double check your work. Make sure it follows all those rules. If you have questions about this or anything else from the lesson, please let me know when you get to class.